Good morning, India. For those of you just waking up, it has been slightly around 6 hours since India hit 9 targets inside Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Since then, apart from acknowledging the attack, India has been quiet. The Indian Army will be holding a press conference at 10 a.m. In the meantime, Pakistan's part-time ministers and full-time terrorist supporters and spokespersons are going on international news channels, begging them to run unverified propaganda pictures only to be flatly denied. And to ensure you get verified and authentic information is why we are coming to you so early in the morning. Now, quickly, here's what we know about the attack so far. Around 1:44 in the night, India bombed 9 sites across Pakistan, including JEM's headquarters in Bahawalpur and LET's base in Mudrike sites, which were previously considered but not targeted during the 2019 strikes. This is India's first tri-services operation since 1971. Through these focused, measured, and non-escalatory strikes, deliberately avoiding Pakistani military facilities and civilian infrastructure, India has sent a clear message to Pakistan that it will punish terrorists in whichever nook and cranny inside Pakistan they may attempt to hide. But more importantly, that India is not interested in escalation. There are also reports that 3 Indian civilians have been killed in the heavy fire that is currently being exchanged across the LOC. And this, called the Operation Sindoor, aptly so, is Strike 2. Strike 1 was India putting the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. Now, to talk about what has happened, I'm joined by my senior colleague, Mr. Shishir Gupta, Executive Editor, Hindustan Times. Good morning, sir. 1:44 in the night, India hit Pakistan hard, as the countrymen wanted, as the victims of Pahalgam wanted. If you could tell us what we know about what has happened so far.
See, my understanding is that the Indian Air Force, backed with the Indian Army as well as the Indian Navy, they launched attack on 9 targets in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and in mainland Pakistan. That is mainland Punjab. They launched attacks on terror infrastructure camps. They have not launched attacks on any religious site. Remember that. This is the propaganda that they're trying to float. There were all terror infrastructure camps that have been done. They were headquarters. For instance, like Jaish-e-Mohammed has a headquarter in Bahawalpur, where you have IC-814, the main man who went out of it, Masood Azhar, sitting over there. Then the other place that was targeted was Murid Ke in Lahore, just outside Lahore. It's a Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters where Hafiz Saeed runs his terror factory. And the third place, which was majorly targeted, was Muzaffarabad, where Hizbul Mujahideen has its camps. Now, basically, the attack was on Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen. All the targets were specific precision strikes, and there was no civilian or military targeting in this. So let's be very clear on what India has done. So India has used loitering ammunition like hammer, like spice bombs. It has used possibly scalp missile to target particularly Bhagalpur, and it has used Rafale fighters, it has used Mirage fighters, and it has used MiG-29 fighters.
We will specifically talk about that, sir. What I quickly want to talk to you about as well is, and right at the top, is the significance of attacking targets inside mainland Pakistan. Because in the previous strikes, of course, the attacks were launched in PoK. And so if you can talk to us about the significance of this move.
You see, in the previous ones, the attack was not only on PoK. In the first surgical strike, the attack was in PoK, in the occupied Kashmir. The second attack was deep inside
Khyber Pakhtunkhwa,
Manshera. Yes. This was Balakot. This was Operation Bandar. And now it is Operation Sindoor. Yes. Operation Sindoor, the attack is not only in occupied Kashmir, it is in Punjab. It is in Sialkot, the heartland of terror infrastructure, which is there in Pakistan. The attack is purely on terror infrastructure. It is not on anybody else. So to say that, that the military installations are targeted, religious installations are targeted, or civilians targeted. That's absolutely wrong. They were precision instruments. The platforms and the weapons were absolutely designed to target a particular place in a pinpointed manner. There is no question that the target went awry or the missile went awry.
Right. And India is expecting Pakistan to retaliate because there is fire which is being exchanged between the two armies across the LOC. And is there anything else which is expected from Pakistan?
You see, Pakistan says that Pakistan has shot down 5 Indian planes.
Yes.
Pakistan says that it has actually destroyed posts in the south of Pir Panjal
And a brigade headquarters.
and a brigade headquarters. So this is what is, if this is not retaliation, what is the retaliation? So let Pakistan first decide whether it has retaliated or what has happened over there. Pakistan opening the LOC with artillery shelling, with heavy machine guns and everything is something that has been going on for a long, long time. So when Pakistan decides to send in terrorists, it starts firing. When Pakistan wants the world to know that actually something is happening, it starts firing. So it's been using artillery guns, it is using mortars, it is using heavy machine guns. That's what it's been doing since the time Indian Air Force, Indian Army, and the Indian Navy have hit Pakistan, have hit the terror infrastructure in Pakistan. It is a very, very humongous response from India because Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters in Muridke and Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters in Bahawalpur were earlier supposed to be no-go areas. So it's a very big move.
Right, right. And before we start talking about the details of the attack, which weapons were used, and how were the targets chosen, etc., quickly also about the name of the operation itself, Operation Sindoor. That's another thing which is being talked about on social media, a lot. And that is that Sindoor, of course, on Indians, the meaning and the significance of Sindoor is not lost, but for international audience. What do you think India is trying to tell the world by naming the Operation Sindoor?
So before I get into this, let me tell you something very importantly.
Sure.
Through the night, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been up. Through the night, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, who's been spearheading the operations, the 3 service chiefs, the CDS, the DGMOs of Air Force, Army, and Navy, everybody has been on their toes, and they continue to be so right now, with Prime Minister personally monitoring the operations. Through the night, NSA, External Affairs Jay Shankar, they've been talking to our allies, briefing them. NSA Ajit Doval spoke to Secretary of State, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and we've been telling the world as to what we have done. We've openly told what we have done. There is no fog of war in this. Right. Now coming to why it is. See, in Pahalgam, what happened was that the 4 terrorists of Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is based in Pakistan, they killed Indian Hindu male tourists. They actually shot them on a point-blank range using AK-47 and M4 assault rifles. Now, in this, there were 2 honeymooning couples, and there were other people who had come over there innocently to enjoy what the Kashmir Valley is known in the world for. Now, Indian married women lost their sindoor that day. India has avenged it today.
Right. India has avenged it today. Now, talking about the attack itself, sir, if you could throw some light on how these targets were chosen and why these 9 targets.
You see, all the 9 targets are very, very important as far as terror infrastructure is concerned. These are the places which have been used to push out terrorists inside the Kashmir Valley for the past 35 years. Let me tell you the importance of it. Muzaffarabad, Kotli are the hub. Muzaffarabad, Kotli, Sialkot are the hub where these people used to launch terrorists across the LOC. Muridke is the place where Hafiz Saeed, along with his entire family, used to run a full-fledged terror factory over there. Jaish-e-Mohammed, Bahawalpur, Masood Azhar, Athar Ibrahim, Rauf Asghar, all of them were basically, it was an enterprise. It was a terror enterprise that both these guys were running. And to India, striking at that place, using bombs, having a warhead of nearly 500 kilograms to 250 kilograms, it means that the targets would be annihilated. That is why it is a very, very important development when it comes to the counter-terrorism narrative that India has been telling openly. See, the people do not realize that Prime Minister Narendra Modi time and again has been saying कि मैं घर में घुस के मारूंगा, and आज घर में घुस के मारा है.
Right. And talking about the attack, now the targets, of course, we discussed them and why and how they were chosen. Now, the other important thing, and we have discussed this at some length in previous episodes, is, of course, the weapon systems which were used, of the bombs which were used by the Air Force and the Army. If you can throw some light on that and talk to us about what happened and why these weapon systems were used, because the last time around when India performed a strike across the border, of course one of India's planes did go down.
So first of all, none of the Indian fighters crossed either the LOC or the international borders. The weapons were such that there was no need, because the range of the weapons was such. Like, my understanding is that you had Mirage 2000 being used, Rafale fighters being used, and then there was a backup of normally air defense fighters. These were the two principal aerial platforms used for that. There are reports about kamikaze drones also being used, right?
Okay.
Now, the point in this is that, like, Muzaffarabad is virtually maybe 10 miles as the crow flies from Uri. Kotli, again, 10-20 miles. The main strike, Muridke, about 25-30 miles from Amritsar. But Bahawalpur was 100 kilometers inside. So the weapons that were used could be spice bombs, which are used in the Balakot attack.
Balakot strikes, yes.
Now, spice bombs have normally a range of about 40 to 60 kilometers. Hammer loitering ammunition has a range of about 80 kilometers. Scalp missile has a range of nearly 500 kilometers or 560 kilometers. So the planes do not need to actually cross the international border or cross the LOC. They can just fly on the Indian side and then launch the missiles or the bombs at an height. And that's what has happened over there. Now, in case of spice, it recognizes the target and then goes into it. In case of hammer, it actually hugs the terrain and then goes up and then goes like a hammer onto the target. In case of a scalp missile, which is also called the Storm Shadow missile, this missile is guided. It does not need GPS. It cannot be jammed. It goes using inertial INGPS, inertial navigation system, and it goes straight to the target, identifies it, and then goes bam. So these were normally the platforms that were used, or the weapons that were used in the attack. These were backed by Indian Army, ensuring that nothing happens on the LOC, nothing happens on the international border. I believe some Indian navies also use some loitering ammunition also, which they also have. So when I say loitering ammunition, it means basically the ammunition used, once it is fired, it loiters on the target. Once it finds the target, locates the target, then it goes into the target.
Right.
And these are all penetrative bombs. so they can go through a significant amount of concrete and everything to strike at the target.
Right.
So my understanding is that these 9 targets definitely would be annihilated.
All right. And now what is also expected is that Pakistan going to retaliate. The Prime Minister has said as much, I mean the Pakistani Prime Minister, and of course several of its ministers since then have been, saying stuff on Twitter and elsewhere, especially on international TV channels. Now, what kind of retaliation, depending on the war games that India might have, of course, kept in mind, is expected from Pakistan?
You see, before we go into the retaliation, let me address one more issue which the Pakistanis been trying to raise. They have been trying to raise that 5 Indian planes have been shot down. That's what they've been trying to raise. They've been telling the world and everybody, saying that this is what we have done and this is what we've done, and how we have retaliated in occupied in Indian side of Kashmir, how we've actually gone on the LOC and so on and so forth. See, my understanding is that there is evidence of at least of one Indian plane going down in Bhatinda, right? There is our information, but there is no confirmation. I have to wait for the Indian Air Force to say what it is. Okay, I am not going to go with what the Pakistani says because they're normally prone to lying. I'm not interested in what they're saying, but at least one, there is evidence of that. I do not know. But see, the fact remains is that, we are not playing a football match. This is war.
Yes.
Right? And in war,
there are losses on both sides. Yes.
Losses happen. So to say that, I actually going to deliver a knockout onto Pakistan, that was not really possible. I do not know how many planes, but let the Indian Air Force say so, how many planes.
I think it'll become clear in a couple of hours.
So that's where it is. So that is the main issue. And what was the question on that?
My question was, sir, in fact, before my question, let me come quickly to what the foreign minister has just tweeted 4 minutes ago. And he has, of course, tweeted the picture, which was also tweeted by the Indian Army's account earlier, Operation Sindoor. And he has written, "The world must show zero tolerance for terrorism, hashtag Operation Sindoor." In other words, the diplomatic playbook. India is, of course, trying to make sure that it is communicating very clearly to the rest of the world, to its allies, that we don't intend any kind of escalation after this. This was a very measured and focused attack. We have gone after terrorists, not after any military installation, not after any civil infrastructure. And perhaps that is also what the foreign minister is now trying to further underscore.
You see, the escalation on part or retaliation on part of Pakistan will depend on how have the targets been hit and what is the damage over there. If the damage is significant, because the images are definitely will lower the morale. But if the damage is very big, then Pakistan, given the rabble rousing, given the radicalization of Pakistan, given the Islamic jihadi army chief over there, it will have no other options but to retaliate. But Pakistan also knows how far the escalatory ladder it can go. Because if it does something more than that, then it will not know what hit it. So the point in this is, Pakistan will retaliate, but it all depends on how hard it has been hit. But the images show that there is a good chance of Pakistan retaliating, but to what extent it will retaliate, I do not know.
And another reason because of which it is more likely that Pakistan will retaliate is because we have seen in case of Pakistan again and again over decades, Bhutto becomes, popular, army tries to do something, Zia comes in, replaces him. Every time, in other words, every time army becomes unpopular in Pakistan, it tries to do something or the other to come back in the books of people where it can have a favored look from the people and acceptance. And Pakistan Army at this point in time is definitely looking at that. Asim Munir, the speech that he gave just before Pahalgam, was trying to do that as well.
See, let's live under no illusion. Pakistan is run by Pakistan.
Yeah.
Rest is all a side show. Okay? Let's be very clear on that. And whether it was Field Marshal Ayub Khan, whether it was Yaul Haq, whether it was Parvez Musharraf, whosoever, Pakistan is run by Pakistan Army and its core commanders, who are also called the Corps commanders.
Mm.
So Pakistan is run by the army. So let's be very clear. And today, what has happened is that you've hit the arm, the strategic arm of Pakistan Army, that is Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen to a certain extent. But these two have been hit. These guys are, I mean, these guys are supposed to be the main weapons of Pakistan Army for asymmetric war. So once you've done that,
Yeah.
Pakistan Army has no other option
Mm.
but to tell the world, listen,
Mm.
I also can retaliate.
Right.
And this is perhaps what it will do.
Mm. And the timing of the attacks here is also very interesting because today, which is 7th of May, across the country, mock drills were supposed to sort of, go on. And perhaps, do you think India was trying to sort of, confuse Pakistan in terms of the timing of the attack? Because the attack was expected. This has come almost within a fortnight of, Pahalgam, like previous attacks as well in the past. So what do you have to say about this aspect?
You see, Pakistan has been talking about a false flag operation in Pahalgam.
Mm.
Mock drill was actually a false flag operation. That Pakistan should have realized first. Pakistan should have also known that in surgical strike as well as in the Balakot strike, the Indian retaliation came within 15 days.
Yes.
This is 15 days, the retaliation has come. And if anybody thought that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not attack, the person does not know what the Prime Minister is all about. Okay? This is very clear. Once he says it, you will do it.
Yeah. And as we also discussed in some of the previous episodes, this is strike two. Strike one was the putting the Indian Waters Treaty in abeyance. This is strike two. And
strike one was water treaty. Strike two is the diplomatic offensive. Strike
right.
three is the terror infrastructure.
Right. So strike three. Now, the Indian Army's press conference will be held in a couple of hours from now. We will wait for that, for more information to come out, because as you were saying also, that Pakistan has been trying to, send this information out that 5 Indian planes have been downed, there's been attack on a brigade headquarters, so on and so forth. So some of those things will become clear. But before I actually sort of, let you go, because it's going to be a busy day for all of us, especially for you, is that last question, and that is, why do you think India has not, I mean, it's been 8 hours. It'll be 8 hours by the time Indian Army actually holds its press conference. What's the reason behind this silence? Because Pakistan, on the other hand, has been talking. Its ministers has been going on international TV platforms and, giving all kinds of sound bites.
Pakistan has no other option but to give sound bites. India was currently monitoring the entire attack, after which there is going to be a CCS meeting in which the CCS is going to be briefed about it, after which the the chiefs will sit together with the NSA, with other people, to decide as to what is the full picture of it, because the attack was still unfolding. So Pakistan can act, all Pakistan can do is cry. That's all about it. Nothing more than that. But let me tell you something. Today, by striking at Lashkar-e-Toiba's headquarters in Muridke, Jaish-e-Mohammed's headquarters in Bahawalpur, Hizbul Mujahideen headquarters in Muzaffarabad, India has truly avenged Himanshi Narwal, Ashanya Trivedi, and Mrs. Nathaniel. This is a message to Pakistan. Do not mess again, because next time it is going to be much more worse than this.
Right. And in fact, speaking of the victims of Pahalgam attack, Shubham Dwivedi's bite has just come in, and she has thanked Prime Minister Modi for taking revenge for her husband's death. We will play that out in a bit. But before that, if you can answer one more question, and that is, of course, what are your sources telling you? What's happening across the LOC at this point in time?
See, Pakistan is fully on alert. Its Air Force is fully airborne. There are combat air patrols going on. Their main airports have been shut. But the point is, the Pakistanis' main aerial platforms are within their blast pens, because they cannot afford an India again to get their planes down targeted by the S-400 system. So it is, for now, the ball is in Pakistan court. If they think that they have shot down 5 Indian jets and they have demolished a whole lot of Indian army posts across the LOC, then I think they have retaliated. It is for Pakistan to decide what it wants to do. India is prepared for it.
And India has sort of also prepared the ground in case Pakistan escalates, or for a firmer response perhaps, by underscoring again and again in its messaging that we have not attacked any military installation, any civil infrastructure. This was a strike specifically against terrorist infrastructure, and that is what we have done. In other words, if you retaliate, because there is no terror infrastructure inside India, so what is Pakistan likely to strike at? Military infrastructure. In which case, there is some kind of an escalation which will happen, right? And India will be bound to strike some of those targets in Pakistan.
India has a logical justification for striking at the terror infrastructure in Pakistan because its 26 innocent tourists were gunned down in Pahalgam. There is a reason for Indian attack. Indian attack has just not come because somebody woke up early morning. Pakistan has no reason to counterattack. Okay? All it can counterattack is to satisfy the ego of General Asim Munir, who thought that he could actually take on India at his call and by deed.
Right. And before wrapping up, I'd request the crew to play out the bite of Shubham Dwivedi's wife, who just said that she wants to thank Prime Minister Modi for taking revenge for her husband's death. Let's listen in.
धन्यवाद करती हूँ, उनसे बहुत थैंक यू कहती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे पति की मौत का बदला लिया है।
तो उन्होंने कहा कि हमने अपनी बात अपनी सरकार तक पहुंचाई और सरकार ने उसका बदला लिया और आज उनकी
धन्यवाद कहूंगी। मैं बहुत छोटी हूँ, उन्हें कुछ भी कहने या नहीं कहने वाली, लेकिन हाँ, जिस तरीके से हमारे पूरे परिवार को उन पे विश्वास था, उन्होंने उसी तरीके से जवाब देके हमारे विश्वास को कायम रखा है। एंड आई एम रियली थैंकफुल।
जिस तरह से आपसे आतंकी में बात की।
बिल्कुल सर, असली श्रद्धांजलि, और शायद वो आज जहाँ पे भी है, आज वो शायद थोड़ी शांति में होगा।
Asli Shraddhanjali. That's what Shubham Dwivedi's wife had to say about the attack.
Well, Shubham Dwivedi's wife also has been avenged, but the fact remains is that people who lost their life in the December 13, 2001 attack, that was done by Jaish-e-Mohammed Masood Azhar. People who lost their life in 26/11 attack, that was planned by Hafiz Saeed from Murid K. All people who lost their lives in the Pathankot attack was done by Jaish-e-Mohammed in Bahawalpur. People who lost their lives in Pulwama attack was done in Bahawalpur. People who lost their lives in Riyasi attack when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was sworn in last year was done from Murid K. Today, all of them will be at peace.
On that note, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time and talking to us. Thank you.